And we continue learning Dirshu Mishnah Berurah, Baruch Hashem, finally back up to date. We're in the middle of Hilchos Tefillah, Siman, 2b-4, and we're in the middle of Sif Beis. And we're in the middle of discussing halachas, what happens when one needs to use the bathroom in the middle of davening. So Sif Beis began by teaching us that if in the middle of davening, it was Nis'ayr Lo Taiva that one fails, that he needs to use the bathroom. And the Mishnah Berurah already spoke out to us that the case is that he did what he was supposed to do. He checked before davening. He didn't have to go. But then, lo and behold, unfortunately, in the middle of davening, he realizes that he does have to use the bathroom. So now, what is the story? So we read the Mechaber yesterday that in the middle of Berachas Kriya Shema and the Brachos, you're allowed to continue Kriya Shema and the Brachos. But we said that you should not finish Goal Yisrael, because then you're going to have an issue, because you're not allowed to start Shemayna Esrei. And the basic yesod that we learned was that each juncture of Tefillah, it's starting anew. So if you started Behatter, that you didn't have to use the bathroom, then you're allowed to continue. But if you started if you're about to start Shemayna Esrei and you have to use the bathroom, then you're not allowed to begin. So says the Ramah, Hagav Vidavka, and this is specifically she'enoi mis'aveh kol kach, someone does not have to use the bathroom that badly, to isbei misham bal teshaksu, that he's not over on the isra bal teshaksu. Aval b'lavach yusir toiv la'asik, but if not, he has to stop. And then he quotes the Rashba that says it's mutter. Chumas Hadesh says it's aser. V'sarich lachalik, im rotz laharchik latel mayim, I say he's allowed to do that. So says the Mishnah Berurah over here, Sivkot and Yud, commenting on this Ramah, that it's Eino Mis'aveh Kol Kach, Rotza Loimar, says the Mishnah Berurah, She'enoi Nidchik Lo Yitzas HaNekavim. And this is a translation of what is Baal Teshaksu. Perhaps a thrown around term without perfect knowledge. What is the Isser? It means one really needs to use the bathroom and he's holding it back. But what does it mean really needs to go? Says the Mishnah Berurah, quoting the El Yarabah, what it means is She'enoi Nidchak Excuse me. I said that incorrectly. We're talking about she'enoi nidchak. I had the right akdama, but I had the wrong din. She'enoi nidchak, that it's not such a big deal. So says the Mishnah Berurah, what does it mean it's not such a big deal? She'enoi nidchak lo tazkavim elo b'seiros ba'alma. So you do see it. It's just the diuk. Let's speak it out clearly. It just says iris. You feel like you have to go, but it's not what. It's not nidchak lo yitzah, which really teaches what is Baal Teshaksu, as we're about to see in a moment. Baal Teshaksu is that it's a nidchak lo yitzah nikavim. It's a mamish. You feel like it's about to come out any second. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sivkatim Yod Aleph. What does that mean? It's possible to hold it in until you finish. Meaning, if one is at the point that he feels like he's about to use the bathroom any second, it's nidchak to do what? But he could hold it in, he could pull it in, but it's an active process. This is the way the Mefarshim explained that Baal Teshaksu is when it requires active energy to hold in one's bowels. So we could say, okay, but I could hold it in for the next minute or two and quickly finish Manasrei, quickly finish what I'm saying. Says the Mishnah Berurah, you should not do that. It's better to be mafsik and go to the bathroom. Let's say someone is davening for the Amud, quite embarrassing, and they covered Abrius, that he's going to have to step down in the middle of Shemayna Esrei and go use the bathroom. So even though there's a potential Isser about the Shaksu here, covered Abrius, we're going to be Deich, and we're going to allow him to continue davening. Says the Mishnah Berurah that really be Yachid, even if it's not because of Tayrach, even not going to cover the Tzibur, there's a makam to be makel like the Rashba. So what we're having over here is a bit of a discussion. What happens if one is in the middle of davening and feels like he really, really needs to go? So first, said the Ramah, it's better to stop. Now, says the Mishnah Berurah, quoting the Chumas Hadesh and the Rashba, no, if you could hold it in, you didn't do the right thing. You should never have gotten to this situation. But if you could hold it until you finish, then you're allowed to. You're allowed to stop. Says Mishnah Berurah, the Derech Chaim is just saying you're allowed to stop in the middle of Shemona Esrei. You feel like, you're allowed to run and use the bathroom. But you have an obligation? No. You're also allowed to continue. So, that is the halacha. So in the middle of Shemona Esrei, and again, this can happen at any point, certainly during the Yom Narayim along Shemona Esrei, but at any point one feels, I really, really need to go, and it's requiring active energy to hold it in. Debatable if he's allowed to stop at Shemona Esrei and go, but if he could hold it in until he finishes Shemona Esrei, we're seeing over here is there's a makom to finish Shemona Esrei. However, continues Mishnah Berurah, let's say you can't hold it in until you finish Shemona Esrei, then you're middle of Shemona Esrei, correct. But if you're about to have an accident, says the Chayei Adam, and you can't even hold it in until you finish Shemona Esrei, you're allowed to go use the bathroom. Sounds like you should not go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. Again, since you started Beheter, you didn't need to use the bathroom, and the middle of Shemona Esrei, so then you're allowed to finish. You're allowed to finish. If you're not going to be able to finish Shemona Esrei, you're allowed to use the bathroom, and you don't have to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. But again, you can't have a break long enough to finish the entire davening. You're not allowed to, unless of the situations that we were talking about. We continue with Sif Gimel. Sarach koidem tefillah l'asir ki chayvei oval kol davar atardai. Got to remove all the phlegm and everything else from your mouth and anything else that is going to be bothering you in middle of davening. There is no Mishnah Berurah in Sif Gimel, so we go straight into Sif Dal. Sarich lirchaytz yadav b'mayim yashloi. So now we spoke about our preparations for davening with regard to using the bathroom. And just to mention one more story, Ramesh Feinstein writes in a tshuva that obviously part of the preparations of davening is if someone's going to have a coffee and he knows that every time he has a coffee, 20 minutes later, half hour later, an hour later, whatever his body is, he's going to have to use the bathroom. So the preparations of davening are to have the coffee in enough time to use the bathroom and then get daven. Use your brain and not get into the situation that we just said a moment ago, that in the middle of Shemona Esrei, oivei. But now we continue another aspect of preparations for tefillah. Says Machaber and Sif Dalet, so you have to wash your hands with water if you have. If you don't have water, you should go look for water until a parsa, which we learned was 4 mil, 72 minutes. And this is when Kishehu, and we don't have the end of Sif Dalet. So give me 1 second. 1 second. You know what? Let's begin. Let's learn the Mishnah Berurah over here again. So the halacha that we're in the middle of discussing is the necessity to wash your hands before davening. So says the Mishnah Berurah over here, Sarich lirchayitz. What's the reason? Siman Dalid. We learned this already in Siman Dalid. We learned halachas until yadayim. What did we learn? We learned that there's numerous types of washing your hands. One of them was washing your hands for tefillah, Mishnah Berurah. Now, the Mishnah Berurah over here doesn't remind us what it is. So let's peek down over here to Dirshu note number 23, in which the Dirshu explains, we explained over there in Siman Dalid, in Netilas Yadayim Shachris Nemu Shnei Ta'imim. There's 2 reasons to wash your hands in the morning. According to the Rosh, the reason is because during the night your hands move around and you might have touched an area that was covered. According to the Rajva, the reason is because since you slept, you're a new creation. Therefore, we have to thank Hashem and the fact that He created us again from new, and we have to be mekadesh our hands like the Kohen Gadol with the kiyar, and then wash our hands from a kli before when one gets up in the morning. But now, so you washed your hands, but now you're not sure. in between the time you wash in the morning till you get to shul, could have time might have lapsed. And therefore, you might have touched something. That's the reason you have to wash your hands again in the morning before you daven, because you might have touched an uncovered area. That is what the Mishnah Berurah and Siman Dalet reminded us. Get back into our Mishnah Berurah Sivkatan Yud Gimel. But gam the tefillah mincha v'arvis arch l'til. You have to wash your hands for mincha ma'ariv as well. Cholan b'reish lam gimel sev beis. Das Rambam. De'echad asarach lita yad v'lo natal. If you had to wash your hands and you didn't wipe it on a rack, afilu b'diavad ain't tefillah say tefillah. A very strong Rambam says the Mishnah Berurah in Ladina, according to the Pri Megadim. You do not go back and daven. If to wash your hands with water, drying them is not ma'akiv, whereas when it comes to eating, though drying your hands is of critical importance. Tzarech, so you have to go look for water. Important detail. Only if you know your hands are dirty. We're going to see that there's different levels. Stam yodayim, maybe you touch something. So for the maybe you touch something, what do? Wash your hands. But if you don't have water and you're going to look for water on the stam, and maybe you don't have to go look for water, which we're going to learn more about in Sif. Hey, let's move on for Dirshu note number 24, a very classical din. You wash your hands for mincha, and you were Mesiach Das, meaning you're in shul the whole time, you know you didn't touch anywhere. So we're going to see in Reish Lamed Gimel still, that you do not have to wash your hands for Ma'ariv. Similarly, Dirshu number 25 says, what about for Musaf? So we're going to learn again in Reish Lamed Gimel that as long as you're in shul, we assume you're not Mesiach Das, you don't have to wash your hands again. But if you went out, perhaps for a break, for a kiddush or something before Musaf, then you have to wash your hands again. Just a comment, and the truth is we're going to see right now if we could get up the rest of Sif Dalid. But just a comment, and I think it just came up. 1 second. 1 second. Is it here? No, it is not here. Just a comment. We're seeing over here that what is the reason that you're washing your hands for tefillah? So the Mishnah Berurah taught us very clearly. The reason is because Yadayim Askani Yasim, even though you wash your hands in the morning, we don't know what might have happened. And therefore, since we don't know what might have happened, therefore what do? You have to wash your hands again before you daven. But let's say someone knows. Now, it's not so difficult to know. Now, the lichatchila, we're learning wash your hands for you daven. But now, someone washed them in the morning, he got dressed, he didn't touch anywhere, he went to shul. So then we're seeing already, it's a practical din. If you know your hands are clean, there would be a makayim to be mekel. Okay, so we have Sif Daled continuing over here. Let's finish up Sif Daled. V'hani mili, says the mechaber in Sif Daled. When are you going to look for water? Hani mili, kishehu. You're going in the road. As we've seen already, the words in front of you. If you have to turn around, ad mil chayzer, you don't have to go back 4 mil, only 1 mil. If you're nervous, you're going to miss man tefillah by going to find water. Wipe your hands off on a rack, or dirt, anything that cleans off your hands. Ayin simin reish lamed gimel. And again, this obviously shows us that as much as it is very important to wash your hands, we're seeing that b'makam atzerich there is a makam to be makel and just wipe off your hands. Sifkata tezayin says mishmur atzarich lachzar, you have to go look for the water. Ve'im, says the Mishnah Berurah, ve'im yitztarech al yidei zel leilech, and if because of this you have to go achachichidi, you're not going to reach your destination. You don't have to go look for water. Writing is the same thing. Again, it's only if you know there's going to be water. Backwards, if you're in your house, you know your hands are dirty, go up and go wash your hands. But if you're going backwards, we said only till 1 mil. So it's like up till 18 minutes, perhaps not a full 18 minutes. But if you're going to miss Zman Tefillah Sifkat and Chaf Legamri. V'emu b'makim sheisha ma'asar shemispal. There's 10 people davening. V'em yachzar achamayim yavr Zman Tefillah b'tzibur. Everyone's going to miss it. Because v'abach av sheish shos ein tzarich lachzar. V'yavna kebemidi minaki. Just wipe your hands off on something to clean them off. And we finish with Sifkat Chaval. Says the Mishnah Berurah Yinake Yadav Ratalem Ardein Lo Lachzar. You don't have to go look for water. Shem Yavar Zman. You might miss this man. V'kol shkein lini kriyishma. If you may miss this man, kriyishma. Elo yinake v'yikra. Just wipe off your hands. Take it don't wait for the water. Just to point out one conclusion that we're going to have to draw from over here. What happens? Again, these things shouldn't happen, but sometimes they do. What happens if someone wakes up 3 minutes or 1 minute before Zman Kriyishma? Grand Kriyishma is, 10:20, and he wakes up at 10:19. What does he do? Or he wakes up, whatever the amount of time is. So if he goes to wash his hands, he's going to miss Zman Kriyishma. So what does he do? So the Mishnah Berurah just gave us guidance. But he just went to sleep and he just woke up, but we really saw the same thing back in Siman Dalet. What he does is he wipes his hand, wipes even in between the fingers, on his blanket, on the wall, and whatnot, and then quickly says Shema in order that you don't miss the Daraisa. We'll pick it up from Siman Hay in the next year, Sif Hay in the next year, B'siyata Dishmaya.